All right, let's try this again. Rolled video before, was trying to do something at the same time I was recording, and it didn't work out, so I'm just going to start over. That other one was only a minute or two long, so I'm just going to delete that file. So anyhow, try and get back to where I was. So this is a paint job. The roof turned out good as far as I'm concerned. It's a little dull because, as I said in my previous, I didn't do what I said I was going to do in my previous video, which was to leave it in the spray booth overnight and then come back and get it today. Didn't do that. Took it home when I was done yesterday. Got out of here about 5:30ish, and it was cold. So when paint is not completely dry and you pull it outside in cold weather, when it flashes off or dries, it gets a little dull. Not worried about it. It's a roof. It doesn't matter. So there you go. So what I'm in the process of doing now is, I don't know if you can make it out here against the background, but I got the luggage rack or the roof rack ready. I had gone, it was being stored up there. Went up and grabbed it, and that's when I was trying to record all of that while I was doing that, and it shut the camera down, and so I'm restarting. Anyhow, just trying to figure out which way's front and which way's back. I think that's the back, and that's the front. Just a guess. So we're going to put it up there. The other thing I had mentioned was I was rethinking about whether or not I was going to finish the yellow on this with paint. I was actually contemplating doing it with vinyl. I thought that might be quicker, require a little bit less prep work, which it would. So I was trying to find prices like on Amazon and online, and even in small sheets, and I don't know that I could actually get sheets big enough to do like a whole panel with one sheet. And I'd go over everything, even the stuff that's already painted yellow, I would wrap it. So my former employer has a vinyl graphics shop, and so I called him this morning and I asked him about pricing on, automotive grade vinyl wrap, and was actually glad I was sitting down when he told me the price. Even a half roll, which is 25 yards of vinyl, which he feels would be enough to do this Jeep. And I don't know if he was thinking that it was going to be just what's not painted, or the whole thing. Regardless, it was minimum, depending on the brand, and there's several different brands out there. Depending on the brand, it was going to be from $600 to $800 for 25 yards of vinyl of sufficient quality to do something like this. I don't know how people afford to do it. I never realized how expensive that stuff is. A full roll can be from $1,200 to $1,600 for 50 yards of vinyl. It's like, that is crazy, and it's like I don't know, 4 foot wide, 48 inches wide, 60 inches wide. I'm not even sure. I'm sure you can get it in different widths, and of course the price is going to fluctuate accordingly. So anyhow, I am going to continue with painting it section by section, going with the Rust-Oleum safety yellow quart cans. I have, I think, one full one left. They're between $7 and $8. It's probably like $8 with the tax at Lowe's, and so I get $8 for a quart, and I used and it worked out really well. So I mentioned in yesterday's video that I used acetone instead of mineral spirits to reduce this paint, to spray it. Both the primer, well, what I was using as a primer slash sealer coat, and the color. So that worked out well. It dried nice, no tackiness. So Anyhow, that's the first project for the day. Well, actually, I already did the first project for today. Was to, I'm pointing at me, and I'm okay. So my first project today was to tuck this back in, and it's still not all the way in. I'm hoping when the weather warms up, that'll settle down some. It may not all the way. It may not be all the way back in. I may have to get in there and poke it. I have appropriate tools for that. Um, some friends of mine who I met through my previous employer, Kurtz Brothers Glass, up in they're from Tamaqua area, Pennsylvania, were kind enough on several occasions to give me some of these hard vinyl tools. Actually, probably just show you that they use for, replacing, not replacing, but reinstalling gaskets and, getting windshields in and out. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, here we go. These things, they're hugely handy when you're doing, we did sold caps and installed caps up there, and Jericho caps, rather than have a aluminum clamp ring that holds the glass in, they're still old school gaskets, which shrink and eventually the windows loosen up and fall out. So anyhow, I can use that tool. I can use that tool to, tuck that back in where it needs to be if the warmer weather doesn't do it for me. Not overly worried. So anyhow, gonna pause it here. Get my roof rack up there. I have all the hardware, and amazingly, I know where it all is. So gonna do that. Get the roof rack on, and then the third and final project for today is gonna be this. Let me turn you around just one more time. That. Nah, I'm not putting another airbag in it just yet. I have to pick one up first. But when I'm pointing straight, my steering wheel isn't, and it's a fairly thing. Yeah, it's a fairly easy thing to fix. It's easier with two people. I have adjusted it. It was way worse than that. So that'll be the third and final project, and I'll walk you through how I do that without actually trying to hold the camera and do it at the same time. Still haven't heard from anybody as to why that stupid door pops like that. You open the passenger door and you don't get any, adverse. See, it's nice and quiet and works fine. It's just that driver's door, and it's done that ever since I replaced the door stop. Back around. So I don't know what's going on with that. I got one of those door stoppers at a junkyard. It was with I got a whole bunch of stuff all at one time. I got the rear brake light, because this didn't have the rear brake light in it when I got it. And I'm pointing at it like you can see it. See it? It's back there in the middle of the window. Got that. I got one of the rear view mirrors was broken on this. Not the glass, the mirror itself, the mirror housing. So I got one of those. What else? Oh, an airbag and a couple other odds and ends. You try and get as much as you can when you go to the junkyard. So automotive parts reclamation or reclamation and recycling centers. That sounds better than junkyard, doesn't it? So anyhow, I'm going to pause it here and get busy, and I'll be back. Okay, so change of plans. My OCD AR kicked in, and I just can't leave things well enough alone. So this is what I got. I went to put the roof racks back on, and I was taking them apart, and I'm setting them up there, and I'm looking at them, and this is what I saw. Okay, so I'm not happy with that. It's normal, it's age, it's 25 years old, so being, OCD, AR, the way I am, I decided that I'm just going to scuff them up quick and squirt a fresh coat of black on them, and then I'll put them back on. So that's where we are. I'm in the process of, I've got the first one scuffed, I'm going to scuff the second one, then I'm going to run over to probably Lowe's and get the Rust-Oleum there. I think they have the best prices on it, and it's a good product, and I like it, and it works for me. So anyhow, this is going to be the Rust-Oleum Bumble Jeep. There you go. There's a thought. Maybe I can get a sponsor. That'd be cool. So, oh, and one other thing. Let's see if I can do this seriously. Hi, my name is Frank, and I'm a toolaholic. Yeah, I am really. I consider it a major victory if I can go into Lowe's and get back out the door without buying any tools. I mean, there's lots of other things I buy at Lowe's, like, for example, the paint for this, all of it. I think I got almost all the paint that I've used on this, almost all the paint products, with the exception of the Duplicolor for the interior. That I bought at Advance Auto, and that got expensive because that stuff don't cover for crap. Pro tip, you can't use that paint on seat belts. I don't know what that material is, but that stuff soaks up paint like no tomorrow, and the original color just keeps on coming through. So you can't do that. So I'm gonna eventually at some point have to go to a automotive recycling and reclamation facility. I remembered, and get myself some tan seat belts to put in this thing. So anyhow, that's all for now. Gonna continue sanding. I will be back when I get those on, and the other change of plans, since I have to paint those. While I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I'm going to go ahead and do the steering adjustment. So anyhow, see you later, or you'll see me later. Still recording? Okay. Yeah, cool. So still recording. So I ran to Lowe's, got my stuff, and I got out of there without buying any tools. It was close. It was really, really close. There's some stuff over there that I'd like to buy, but I'm not in love with the prices yet. And there's some stuff over there I totally didn't understand. I'm not a carpenter. I can do it. It's just not my vocation. But they had and I saw a video on this the other day. A cross-cut miter, double miter saw. Okay, so I went over there, and it was a cobalt saw, of course, so otherwise I wouldn't watch the video. But anyhow, I went in there, and I looked, and there's this, if I was a carpenter, I'd have fell in love. This beautiful double miter crosscut. So basically what that means is you can take and angle the head on it 45 degrees both ways. A lot of those like crosscut saws, you can only angle the blade one way. This one you can actually go both ways, and it's a beautiful piece of equipment. It's excellent quality craftsmanship, quality materials, and the whole 9 yards. And they had it listed for $79, and I'm thinking, wow, that's a really good buy. I should buy that. I don't even need that saw, but I should buy that. So then I look down the aisle, like maybe 10 feet, and there's one, and it's $279. So I had to go back and I double check the model numbers or the stock number, and the stock number is a little bit off. And I went further down, and there's a smaller one, and it's $179. So I'm not understanding their pricing. What do they call it? I'm not understanding their pricing. So anyhow, I digress. Back to my project. So I got primer, and I primered these, and just gray, fast drying. And this is a sandable primer, which really didn't make any difference to me because I am not going to sand these before I put the color on. I'm not going to sand the primer before I put the color on. I did sand these rails and wiped them down with wax and grease remover, prep sol, whatever you want to call it, before I sprayed it. I wasn't going to, and I thought, you know what, why not? I have it here, let's do it. So I did. So anyhow, they're in primer now. As soon as they dry a little bit more, I will be putting the black on, and it's just regular Rust-Oleum satin. I went with a satin finish instead of a gloss. Seen more OEM, and so yeah, that's what's going on. I wish I had a bucket of hot water to drop them in, but I don't, so it's room temperature. It's not cold in here, it's 60-ish degrees. So anyhow, gonna let these dry off, and I'll be back when they're ready to spray, or I'll come back when they're sprayed. Oops, sorry. All right, so just put the final coat of black on the roof rack, pieces. So I'm gonna let these dry and turn around and show you. Okay, sorry, had to look where the camera was on this thing. I sometimes get disoriented with the phone. So it's shiny now, but that's because it's super wet. This will dry a satin finish or a flat or a semi-gloss. It'll dry what it dries. I'm not losing sleep over it either way. So that's this. Now when these get nice and dry, I may not even put them on today. I may be able to do it tomorrow. I want to put them on today. I want to put them on today. So as soon as they dry sufficiently, and there's like a piece that goes on the bottom here. It's like it's plastic, but it's a protector that goes between the roof and this metal piece. So, and I painted the inside here. This is where the adjustment is for the crossbars. I'm not painting the crossbars today. I may paint them. I may scuff them and paint them. It depends on how bad they look when they're mounted on this. So next, there we go. Hey, I did it right this time. So the next item on my punch list for this is straightening out the steering wheel so it's straight when I'm going straight. It's not too far off now, so let me grab the creeper, and I'll show you what's involved. It's really simple. I think it's two 15 millimeters, and I run them on that little compact half-inch impact. So we're going down on the floor. Yeah, I'm getting too old for this. So anyhow, this, oh, you're just pointing at me. I got to turn it around again. Alrighty then. So, sorry, I'm old, I get confused easily. Leave me alone. Alright, so that's the piece there where you got to loosen those two nuts and bolts up, and then you just turn that sleeve. And this thing has been apart so many times recently that it's very simple. I just put that half-inch impact on here and zit, take them both loose, and I can channel lock or pipe wrench. I don't even need a pipe wrench. I think the last time I did it, I actually turned it by hand. So the threads are nice and greased up on and this goes to the steering box, and it goes over to the other side. And this, I think that's the right one. Is that the right one? Yeah, that's the right one. That adjusts, that centers your steering wheel. So anyhow, that's all there is to it. You can see here where I put my drops on for my sway bar. Alright, I am going to turn this around again. Let's see if I can do it the right way this time. I guess it doesn't matter. So, getting up. Alright, so I'm thinking there's some other things I may want to do to this at some point. And for the purposes of just making it more durable, since this is going to be one half of my retirement home, um, I'm thinking there's a couple things I want to do to this. Besides the front and rear lockers, um, I want to rebuild the front end. And by rebuild the front end, I'm referring to both upper and lower ball joints on both sides. There's nothing wrong with the ones that are in it. I just feel like it would be better, when I go on the road in a little over about a year and a half. When I go on the road in about a year and a half, possibly, um, I'd like everything on this to be next to new like. Reliable, that's the word I'm looking for. I want it to be bulletproof. So I'm thinking upper and lower ball joints. I'm going to go through the whole drivetrain and replace all my U-joints. This is a little update I forgot. I keep forgetting to mention. Don't get old, man. It sucks. What I want to do, or what I did, I changed the oil in the transmission. This is a 5-speed manual transmission, and the problem I've been having since I bought this Jeep in January 2018, it's always ground going into reverse. Always grinds the gears going into reverse. Unless I hit it just right from like when I'm come to a stop and grab reverse, and every once in a while, less than half the time, I could get it into reverse without it grinding, but most of the time it would grind. So I don't know if it was low on fluid, if the fluid was just wore out, what the problem was, but I did change the fluid on it. I put the recommended fluid in it, and it went away. This thing shifts into reverse beautiful now. There's no grinding or anything like that. The good news is when I did change the fluid in the transmission, there was no shavings. It was clean. So, 207,000 and change, and the transmission's in good shape. I want to keep the rest of it in good shape. So my intention is to make sure that all of the maintenance items are replaced before I take to the road in my retirement. So upper and lower ball joints on both sides, the steering, whatever needs going over in the steering is going to be going over. U-joints in the front axles, U-joints in the front and rear drive shaft. That's necessity. I'm feeling like that's a necessity. The other thing I want to do, some upgrades on this. It's going to be on the road, and it's not like I'm going to be putting a ton more miles on it than I am now. I put less than 4,000 miles a year on this thing. Actually, barely 3,500 miles a year on this thing. So it's not like I'm going to be doubling or tripling that amount. And even if I did, that's still not a lot of miles a year. But this is a 95 Jeep. It's 25 years old. I have replaced the floors. When I did the floor replacements, it was self-tappers and panel adhesive. Plenty strong to hold the floors in. I don't know that the thing is solid going down the road. It doesn't twist or do anything like that. But I would like to do frame stiffeners, front to back. And I would like to do, it's going to sound stupid for a daily driver that's on the road, but I would like to do rock sliders, just because I think they'd look neat on this. And it's something I can step on when I'm getting in, because right now I'm having a hard time getting in and out of it. And then the one other little minor thing that I would like to do on this, one of some other things. I want to get rid of the stock control arms in the front and go, I think I actually want to make my own. I'll do a aftermarket style with DOM tubing, with the little bend in it. I'll lay them out. The length is going to be the same as these. I may make them adjustable on one end. I haven't made up my mind yet if I want to do that. I may make them adjustable on one end